Good
Hi.
morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning. I think you can see me now.
Yes.
Yeah. Now start. You are late little bit, China.
I'm not late, some connectivity problem.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, good morning, everybody, and hello and welcome to the Frontline webinar on low life and the conversion debate. And today, as you all know, joining with us, John Britas, one of the most vibrant voices of Indian Parliament, and Advocate Tulasi K. Raj, a practicing lawyer in the Supreme Court of India, who have a handful of cases in her credit, like uh, Joseph Shine versus Union of India, in which adultery was decriminalized. So, two very eminent persons joining with us today. So, as everyone knows the context, we are talking about this topic in the context of two Malayali nuns were targeted by the Bajrang Dal activists and were arrested for alleged human trafficking and religious conversion. And they were in jail, and it created a lot of protest in the country. Despite those girls who were traveling with them try to explain that there was no case of trafficking or conversion, but still these nuns were arrested and they were put in jail. And as John Britas is one of the members of parliament who intervened for the release of these nuns, and the party that he represents, CPIM, also did a lot of work to bring them out. So we are talking about this issue in this context. So, Britas, to begin with, can you share your experiences of, being involved in, such things happening in India over the past few years? And interestingly, personally, I think this is not something new, and this is not the first of its kind that happened in India. Nuns and priests being attacked and targeted and framed up is something that happens very common. But this has become an issue in the country, a point of debate in the country, for one reason, which I think they are from Kerala. They are Malayali nuns. That is one reason, I think, because it happens on a regular basis. Uh, so my question is to Britas. My question is, uh, what do you think about such things happening so frequent, and the Christian community is being targeted for this alleged conversion? And conversion, as we all know, is a constitutional right. So, from which point in history conversion has become a crime? So, can you start talking about it?
Yeah, Shaina, thank you very much. As you rightly said, this is one of the many incidents that are happening in northern India, especially states where BJP is ruling. And this Durg incident where the two nuns were arrested got some limelight, maybe because of various factors coming together. One is the factor called the game plan of BJP in Kerala to make sure that the Christian community could be a potential vote bank. And second, because the parliament was in session and we were all there. And third, the CBSCA also took a very proactive decision. So all these three factors came together. That's why it became a major issue. Even then, I can very well say that this incident was not discussed the way in which Kerala community or Kerala society discussed. Nevertheless, the government of India was forced to intervene. And we had an interface with the Home Minister wherein he admitted that the nuns were not guilty. That was what he actually tried to tell us. Though we have ensured the discharge of nuns on bail, but the sword of democracy is hanging very much on the minorities, especially on Muslims and Christians in northern India. Even the other day in Orissa, there was incident when two priests and two nuns and one of their assistants were attacked by the Bajrang Dal. And none of the purpose outside Kerala would have reported about it. So what I feel is that there is an ideological frame for such incidents because the BJP is driven by RSS, whose ideological moorings have been shaped by none other than M.S. Goldwalker, who said that Muslims, Christians, and communists are internal threats to India. So there is an ideological foundation for all this hate and hatred. And I think Tulasi would elaborate on the legal aspects. Nowadays, you can see a spree of laws being enacted, which Shahina, you rightly stated that, are infringing on the rights ensured by Article 14, 19, 21, 25. All these fundamental rights are being breached by such anti-conversion laws. And these anti-conversion laws, in many places, it's harsher than the UAP. For example, I was looking at the amendment brought in by the Uttar Pradesh government in 2024 on that anti-conversion act. It has made it so harsh. A third party can implicate anybody, and the definition is so loose that anybody can be put behind the jail. I happened to look into a case and also contacted the people who were implicated in Bareilly. You know, the extent of our judicial institutions have been compromised, especially the subordinate courts. But even the Bareilly court was surprised, shocked to see two persons be put behind the bar or in jail for more than 6 months just for having Bible at their homes. So the extent of weaponization, I would call it like that, weaponization of the so-called anti-conversion laws, that also is a huge threat. I feel that basically the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution are blatantly, flagrantly violated in the form of all these activities. And further, the minorities, the situation of minorities, whether it is in UP, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, or any of the states, especially in northern states, are very precarious. See, one night a bulldozer can run over you, another night a church can be burned. And the interesting part is that they allege the Christian community of rampant conversion, whereas the population of Christians in India is hardly 2.3%. This is the exact condition of the Christian community. This Chhattisgarh has got the history of attacks against the Christian community, maybe number which is close to Uttar Pradesh. I recollect in 2022 and 2023, there were widespread attacks against the Christian community in Narayanpur, one of the tribal belts in Chhattisgarh. And those people who must have spearheaded continue to be leading lights of the BJP. And even Orissa, when you talk in terms of Orissa, the Kandhamal incident needs to be, talked about. We all talk in terms of Graham Staines and his two children were burned alive. But Kandhamal was such a gruesome incident wherein by at least 600 villages were tossed. It happened in 2008. And reluctantly, the Supreme Court intervened in 2016. And because of the intervention of Supreme Court, something like 300 or 400 cases were filed. But nothing has happened so far. And those people who spearheaded this attack against the Christian community continue or became big time leaders in BJP. And one of them is a leading legislator, member of Legislative Assembly in Odisha. So this is the plight of the minorities in North India. And I can tell you that there is a pattern to all this. And I don't think just because I intervened or somebody intervened, this is going to cease, because this is part of the hate and hatred or the ideological foundation that RSS has.
Yeah, there are two important points in what you said. First of all, if conversion would have happened as alleged, this percentage of Christian community shouldn't be certainly 2.34 in India. That is one point. And secondly, as you said, this is not something that that is going to have an end, even if you intervene or someone else intervene, because it has become so frequent in India. According to some data provided by Religious Liberty Commission of the Evangelical Fellowship of India, from January to July 2025, 334 incidents of systematic targeting against Christians across India were recorded. And they say that uh, all these incidents came out in public, and there are sufficient evidence that the Christian community was targeted. But in very rarely, FIR has been filed and these assailants have been caught. It never happens. So my question to Tulasi is, uh, now when we talk about conversion, we only understand something about forced conversion. So what is the difference between conversion and forced conversion, and at what point of time in the history this conversion, which is very much a constitutional right, has changed into an illegal activity which has become a crime? I mean, I understand that around 12 states in India have passed anti-conversion laws. So what is your understanding about this anti-conversion laws, and what is the difference between conversion and forced conversion? Can you please explain that?
Yeah, sure. So, it was correctly pointed out, the idea of bringing in anti-conversion legislations is, of course, a broader, it's a part of the broader framework of the BJP, in trying to limit any kind of conversion or any kind of religious expression of religious freedom, in the sense that there has been, at the way the legislations have been brought in, as you rightly said, I think several states have already enacted anti-conversion laws, and several other states are in fact considering it, and they are in the draft or the bill forms. And
Yeah, like
one
Maharashtra. Yeah.
so, yes, and you will notice that one of the key aspects of these legislations is that they are penal legislation. So they're criminal laws, which of course is the most deterrent way in which you can bring in a law to prevent any thought of conversion, or including voluntary conversions. So if you look at the framework of the Chhattisgarh legislation, you have the Freedom of Religion Act of 1968, which was again tightened with 2006 amendment. So 2006 proposal essentially states that whoever intends to convert any person from one religion to one religious faith to another, either by performing a ceremony or otherwise, should apply to the district magistrate. So that already brings in the whole judicial forum or judicial supervision into something that should be a private ceremony or a private act of conversion. Ideally, no one should have a business, and the state should not have a business if I decide to convert. That should be part of my right to religious freedom. And then it also conceives that the magistrate can inquire into it. So it makes the process more and more difficult, more and more chilling, by bringing in more and more deterrent aspects into it. And since this is the framework of the law, this is essentially part of the broader agenda of trying to prevent conversions, whether voluntary or otherwise. And I just want to flag one more aspect, is that I think essentially this is part of the agenda of also ascertaining a overall Hindu identity, and that is especially relevant when it comes to the issues of tribals, because there has been a narrative that Hinduism is all encompassing, that it also consists of various groups of tribals who have not declared themselves as categorically Hindu, but might have certain elements of practice of the Hindu religion. And there has been attempts to assimilate the whole tribal identity into part of the overall Hindu identity, and that has been the narrative for several years. Now, coming back to your question on conversion and forced conversion, it's quite interesting, and unfortunately, the judiciary has also been not very clear with respect to this distinction, and has not laid down categorically what the elements are. But in way back in the 1970s, there were judgments, there were litigations emerging from both Orissa and Madhya Pradesh. And both the high courts, in fact, answered divergently. So the Orissa High Court said that conversion is part of the right to religious freedom under Article 25, and the Madhya Pradesh High Court disagreed. Now, ultimately, when the matter reached the Supreme Court in Stanislaus versus State of Madhya Pradesh in 1977, interestingly enough, the Supreme Court took a very restrictive approach of religious freedom under Article 25, and it was said that the right to religious freedom under 25 does not include the right to convert. So that's been the judgment way back then. And now and of course it was in a set in a different political context as well. And now the anti-conversion laws, which are passed by various states, are under challenge in the Supreme Court, and no final call has been taken by the Supreme Court on the validity of these legislations. So I would say there is some sort of judicial coherence and clarity needed with respect to, especially in the current political context, and the way in which these penal legislations are framed, and how proportionate or disproportionate these legislations are, and how these legislations are admittedly and empirically disproportionately affecting religious minorities, right? Even though many of these legislations are phrased in a very neutral way of conversion from one religious faith to the other, we know that disproportionately they've been affecting Christian and Muslim religious minorities, and that's that seems to be the effect of the law, and more number of persons from the minority religions are being penalized, are being put into jail as a result of these laws.
Understand that. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to understand one thing that as a journalist in my investigations also, I have found that majority of the cases, this cases taken under the anti-conversion laws in various states, there is hardly any piece of evidence like to prove that okay, so and so person was forcefully converted, or so a lot of people have been framed up under these laws. And coming back to John Britta's, again, if we go to some data, we can see that this attack and targeting against Christian minorities are happening in many states, but Uttar Pradesh and Chhattisgarh stand at the top. If we look at the data, from January to July 2025, Uttar Pradesh recorded 95 incidents, while Chhattisgarh documented 86 incidents of targeting Christian minorities, accounting for 54% of the whole violations happened between January and July 2025. So, what's your take on this thing? Like how the Hindutva, BJP and umbrella organizations are using this very narrative of conversion as a tool to expand their constituency and to promote aggressive Hindutva. How do they do it very systematically? So not as a parliamentarian or not only as a parliamentarian, but as an activist of CPIM, you would be able to reflect more on that.
Yeah, Shagina, let me just get out of the nuances, legal nuances. Let me just come to the practical proposition that is the reality around me and you. See, I have been asking several questions in Parliament with regard to the number of attacks against minorities. As you know, if I ask a question of attacks, number of questions against SC and ST, there is a system in which I can get this answer. Despite having a minorities department or a ministry, this government deliberately skirt that question or disallow the question. They don't want such a question to be answered in the parliament. Further, I was part of the outreach to Japan, Korea, Indonesia, etc., 5 countries. One of the pertinent questions that stared at us was, why are you treating the minorities like this? the assurance the Constitution, Indian Constitution, gave to the people and to the entire globe was that you are going to keep the minorities close to you. And that was assurance given by, say, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Mahatma Gandhi, everybody. So what has happened to India? We should have an inspiration for the entire global political scenario. And what that was the question which was staring at us. So while I was participating in the debate, told the BJP vendors, treasury vendors, government, see, you may use this attack against minorities for your political benefits. So I can tell you, Shahina, it's not because BJP is threatened by so-called conversion. They know that these are all people who may not be having status beyond scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. The plight of Muslims in North India, which many people try to ignore, it's below the, I would say, the standard of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. They know that they are unable to do anything, but it's been deliberately done to polarize the society. That is for the vote bank politics of BJP. That is much more important. So what I was trying to tell them was that a small incident against the minorities have got far-reaching implications for the foreign policy of India abroad. So if you just look at our neighbors, see, we don't have a single neighborhood country which supports honesty, candidly, with love or affection. They don't see India as somebody who is a friend. So the havoc that this thing has played, it's not only about our internal politics, about the global politics, the soft power diplomacy that has been dented considerably by such orchestrated act. And further, see the diabolic game that is being played. I was in Durg, I was in Raipur, I visited many parts. See the very schools being run by the Christian nuns or Christian congregations or institutions. If it is 3,000 students, you are hardly 100, 150 students from the Christian community. 99%, 90% of the Hindu community. They know that they serve them. The hospitals, you go to Chhattisgarh, all this Adivasi belt. See, large chunk of population have been redeemed from, say, obscurantism, superstition, and all those things by these Christian missionaries who run hospitals, all these things like that. They know that. They know that. All these people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of such institutions. That's why in Parliament I asked J.P. Nadda, were you not a beneficiary of the Christian institution? You studied in St. Xavier's in Patna. And most of the leading lights of the BJP and their children or their grandchildren would have had the benefit of getting a good education in a Christian school, whether in India or abroad. But when it comes to the political fora, they create an impression that these minorities are bent upon converting people, which is actually contrary to the facts which are being told out in the parliament and also part of our official statistics. Then you also tell that, see, we have movements from India, say Hare Krishna movement, operate in 170 countries. They claim that they have something like 20 million followers or 25 million followers. I'm only talking about one sect. So on the one count, you talk about, such things, trumpeting the so-called clout of Indianness. On the other count, you don't allow these Christian or Muslim communities to have their cultural facets. And further, I can tell you one, the incidents that are happening, which are not reported. Let's be very clear about it. Shahina, you are sitting in the Kosi ecosystem of Kerala, and you must have looked at the Malayalam press and television, but I can tell you one. Even the Durg incident was not nationally reported. None of the national purpose, none of the national televisions picked up as one of their headlines. I have not seen any report in Times of India or anywhere like that. Maybe in a very, I would say, which may not have come to our notice. So trust me that media has already left this topic of minority bashing in this country. And they feel that, the media feel that the Hindutva forces are entitled to do that. I can tell you the transformation that has happened in the reportage of the mainstream media. They are busy in annexing cities of Pakistan like Rawalpindi or say Islamabad, but they will not talk about the plight of their own citizens in India. This is the hapless condition. At a point of time, the English papers were slightly reluctant to talk about the blemish on Indian Constitution when Babri Masjid was demolished. Now, anything of the faith is a triumph of Indianness. When the Prime Minister goes and conducts a ceremony in a temple, it's been seen as the triumph of Indianness or Indian culture. See how our media has gone from one end to the other end. So I feel that there is all gamut of issues which need to be discussed. I'm sure that Tulasi, who is, has an illustrious career as an advocate, will dwell on such legal nuances. But let me ask you one. If two nuns cannot travel in a train despite having a ticket, and two with three adult women despite having tickets and documents, how can you talk about the fundamental rights in the Constitution? And you have a fundamental right of picking up any profession in this country. And 35 lakhs of people are working in Kerala from other states. Do you think it is part of the human trafficking? So the nonsense that is being played out need to be brought to the fore. And I feel that the courts need to be very little more active. Policy was talking about something in Supreme Court, but in April, Sanjeev Khanna's court, I don't know the instruction given to the Supreme Court, the government of India with regard to submission of their opinion with regard to this conversion laws. Nothing has happened. Nobody is bothered about such things. And Chhattisgarh, I can tell you, the fallout of this case, Nun's case, is that they are going to amend and make their conversion law more rigorous. There is a draft bill in the offing. I was discussing with some BJP leaders. They were saying that they are going to tighten the conversion law further. So this is the aftermath of what has happened in Chhattisgarh. So the whole issue of rights granted under Constitution, the culture of this country, what distinguishes India from Pakistan or any other country. See, this has gone away. I can tell you that. We need to think beyond the legal parameters.
Yeah, you are right, Britas. That's what I was asking you. Even after all this protest happened, like as you said, maybe only in Kerala, but they are going to stringent these laws. So it does mean that they are cultivating a result from spreading hate. So my question is, how do they expand their territory, or how do they expand their constituency by spreading hate against minorities, by spreading fear about conversion, and by creating false narratives about conversion? So how do they do it politically? Can you explain a little bit more?
I can tell you an incident that happened in Gasabad, which I know for sure because I've been there. Gasabad, in a housing colony, two people grew up, one a Hindu girl and a Muslim boy. They studied together, they played together, and when they became adults, they decided to marry. Both the families concurred with their marriage, and they married 3 years back. I can tell you, 3 years back. All of a sudden, few weeks back, some Hindu Jagran organizers found out that in this colony, there is a Hindu girl with a Muslim boy married, maybe 3 years back. They came and pulled up this guy, took him to the police station. The police station implicated this boy. And they went and forced that Hindu girl's family to render evidences. They refused. The boy went to the jail. Nobody questioned that. So, is it because of any conversion? No. They all know that this boy and this girl grew together in this house. They want to create a fierce psychosis in this country. This is a hate and hatred. Didn't you see what happened during the Operation Sindhu? The hate that was created on Sophia Qureshi, the hatred that was whipped up on Vikram Misri. And I wrote a letter to the Home Minister, Amit Shah ji, saying that what has happened in this country, unless you step in and take some action against few people, nothing will happen. Not even a single guy was proceeded. See, even the foreign secretary of this country had to close down his personal Twitter account, but not even a single action. If the government of India had the inclination, they could have sprang and they could have actually clamped on numerous people. What do they do? How many accounts are being suspended? Whenever they see it to be uncomfortable to the politics of India, how many accounts are being seized? Even say Bloomberg or Reuters or many accounts are being closed out. So the message that goes from the government to the agencies. Now, with regard to this Chhattisgarh incident, the TT was the culprit. TT didn't report this matter to his superiors. TT called up the Bajrandal people. The police is taking instructions from the Bajrandal or Parivar people. Even the lower courts, I won't say because it's a contentious issue, but I'm telling you, the system has been corrupted to a level of, I would say, beyond redemption. I have no hesitation in saying that because that's what I'm seeing as a public servant, as a media person who has gone around the North Indian states for last more than 3 decades. I can see what is happening. The so-called transformation that is happening in the Hindi belt is something which anyone need to be concerned about. But obviously, in South India, we may not see such incidents. So many of us are not that much worried or concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, you are right about, particularly about what you said about the media. If we look at the media reporting and the pattern of change that had happened, people might remember a few incidents that happened maybe in early 90s or in early 2000, like the rape of a nun in Gajraula that happened in 1992 or 1991. And also this killing of the murder of Graham Staines and his family. After that, if we ask people whether you remember a particular incident of attack and violence against Christian minority, nobody is able to recollect because they are not reporting. Media is not reporting. It has become, it ceased to be a piece of news. That's what actually happened. And same is the case with Muslim minority too. If we look at a particular incidents of attack against the Muslim minority, we may recollect the name of Muhammad Aghlaq. And after that, whether we do remember, whether we do recollect any names, any incidents, after that, it's actually faded. Everything has become, it is erased from the public memory, and media is not reporting, which is very sad, as you said. And as a journalist, I also feel that. I mean, this change, the pattern of change is very much visible that we can see. And another point that you said, like, this will continue, and this Hindutva forces will continue doing this, and which is very evident from the recent incidents. Like even after this nuns were nuns arrested in Chhattisgarh, and it created a lot of protest in the parliament. Soon after, even before the dust settled from that incident, India witnessed another incident on August 6, 2025 in Odisha, where 2 priests and 2 nuns were attacked by the same mob, Bajrang Dal, and their mobile phones were snatched, the Bibles were snatched, and they threw it away. And this they were kept in custody from morning to evening, and even after the harassment of an entire day, the police didn't file a FIR against these assailants. It happened on August 6th, this very month itself. So it shows that from every incident, the assailants and the promoters of hate, they take a cue to do more rigorously, to go to for similar and same pattern of attack more rigorously. That's what is happening. And Tulsi, when we again come to the framework of law, recently I'm very worried to see something that happened in Odisha after this incident, which I just mentioned. I saw a circular, a notice being circulated among the Christian, minority, I mean, among the priests and nuns, that not to wear religious habit when they go out in public. Uh, so, uh, uh, so they are going to the level of giving up their religious habit while they go on public. So we are going to that level. I mean, the right to wear someone's choice, the right to wear the clothes of someone's choice, is a fundamental right in the Indian Constitution. But these people, these priests and nuns, are forced to give up their religious habits. Where are we heading to, according to you, Tulasi?
Yes, of course. Going by the constitution, there is the fundamental right to religious freedom is guaranteed under 25, and that necessarily includes the right to wear religious symbols when you go out or when you are in public spaces or private spaces. Only very few exceptions have been carved out for this, such as when you are performing or acting as the agent of the state or performing official functions is one of the exceptions wherein you don't come out as the representative of a religion. But that apart, there is of course there is no restriction as far as the right to expression is concerned when it comes to religious symbols. And the circular, of course, is unfortunately a reaction to what has happened in Chhattisgarh and the assault of the larger political agenda against the minorities. So this seems to be somewhat of a cautionary step that is taken by the minorities to prevent immediate attack or immediate sort of gaining of attention. But of course, politically, it is quite unfortunate that these steps have to be resorted to, and you are unable to freely practice your religion, and you're unable to sort of freely roam around as a nun by wearing the uh, the dress that you usually wear as a Christian nun. And I think there is also another issue probably taking from aspect of the reporting of the incidents by the third party is concerned. So we will see that in all these religious laws, the framework is such that, or of many of these anti-conversion laws, the framework is such that very often a third party is allowed to complain, or there can be an action initiated on the complaint of a third party who has nothing to do with the conversion altogether. So, and that is precisely why what has happened in Chhattisgarh in the present scenario as well. That when the nuns were traveling in the train, and when the ticket inspector comes to check the tickets, when Bajrang is conducted by the ticket examiner, and it is the group which comes into the foreground and then initiates the whole action of trying to register an FIR and all of that. So there is also, I think, an important issue of compromise of individual autonomy, which is quite, I think, unfortunate as well. So when it comes to people from the tribal community, or when we talk about uh, Hindu girls, for that matter, there is this attempt by the political dispensation to say that we will make decisions on their behalf, right? We will tell you how to protect them, or we will sort of assume the protective role of protecting Hindu girls and of protecting the tribal community. And this kind of, you know, the role of the protector essentially impedes into the overall individual autonomy that these people have, whether they are from the tribal communities or whether they are Hindu girls who are getting married to whoever they want. And that would be also, of course, a violation of Article 21. And we know that in the Hadia case, when the case ultimately reached the Supreme Court, that was one of the aspects that the court stressed on as well, that adult women have individual autonomy to make decisions and make choices about their lives. And they probably do not need the advice or the protecting of religious groups. And I think that is precisely what is happening here as well. And I think people from the mainstream society also have this idea that the tribals or the tribal community needs to be protected and needs to be brought into the mainstream in some way. And I think that is fundamentally flawed as well. There is this I think there is this idea of uplifting the tribal community or civilizing them in some way is inherently problematic, since it's somewhat disrespectful to the kind of cultural parameters that a particular group has drawn in, and that also, of course, is in conflict with the kind of constitutional right that is offered under Article 29 to preserve one's individual identity and individual culture and group rights of cultural denominations to have be faithful to that. So I think that there is all of these aspects also operate when it comes to these kind of supposed incidents of trying to protect the people from the communities and trying to protect people who are whom we call as vulnerable, but I think who are very competent to make their decisions in their life.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Before going to the questions from the audience, I just want Mr. Britas to add a point. When we talk about, all these attacks against the minorities in India, can you tell me whether the opposition parties in India responded to this increasing incidents of attack on minorities up to the extent that they should do? Like, and what's your take on the kind of the public discourse raised by the opposition parties in India with regarding to regard to these issues, like, and also how what all things that the opposition had done to make the government accountable?
Yeah, Shaina, it's a very good question because I don't want to bring in politics there, but let me just tell you one thing. This incident pertaining to two nuns was primarily a Kerala issue. When I visited Chhattisgarh, I could see that just because so many Congress leaders and MPs landed up there, the Chhattisgarh unit of the Congress was reluctantly supporting them. But they didn't even openly come out. Even the former Chief Minister, Begel, was not vocal about it. On the first day, he came to Durg. Then, when the media tried to elicit his opinion, he said that he simply came to facilitate his colleagues from Kerala to meet the nuns who were incarcerated. He was not even ready to put on record his objection to the act of arrest of these nuns. And this is a fact in entire North India. I can tell you one thing. I think Tulasi talked in terms of the cultural aspect, but let me just tell you about. See, what really threatens these Adivasis is their lives and livelihood. Large chunk of land are being taken away from them, from their hold, for mines, given to the corporates. These are all the real issues, but they want to camouflage that. I can tell you, a person who was instrumental in the orchestrated attack against the Muslim community in Tangar and Narayan, he was eventually fielded by BJP and he became a member of parliament here. And many of the political parties, I don't want to name them, they may be fighting BJP, but they are reluctant to take their arms in North India. So when nuns issue comes, it becomes a Kerala issue. Maybe to a certain extent, Samajwadi Party may be fighting against this onslaught on the minority community, especially the Muslim community in Uttar Pradesh. Otherwise, generally in North India, there is a blanket approval for what is happening. There is a blanket approval for the Sangh Parivar organization. And there are numerous organizations that are working. If you look at the Adivasi tribal belt, see, there is an organization called Janajadi Suraksha Manch. It's something which has been rechristened primarily to target the Christian community there, primarily to target the Christian community. And just to add a bit about what Tulasi was speaking, see, in Uttar Pradesh law, I was going through the various provisions of Uttar Pradesh conversion law. See, a inducement. It's seen as a coercion. Think about a Christian school in Uttar Pradesh, which gives a scholarship to a Hindu student. If that school is in Western UP, assume that it is in Gasabad. somebody is sitting in Eastern UP, saying Allahabad or somewhere else, they can file a complaint even without knowing who are these characters. That a Hindu student has been given scholarship, that's an allurement, that is an inducement. These people would be put behind the bars. See the arbitrary provisions that have been brought in. And whether we like it or not, Article 25, you have every right, fundamental right to believe in your religion and even to propagate. It's a fundamental right. So how are these provisions of these anti-conversion acts are directly in conflict with the fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution? I feel the judiciary also needs to be a little more proactive because UP, amendment came in 2024, we are in 2025. As Shahina rightly pointed out, there are almost 12 states are brought in. And every state is trying to weaponize it further. And their competition is with UAPA. How to match UAPA or to go beyond that. How to go make it more harsher. But the judiciary seems to be oblivious. Many political forces, which may be legitimately fighting the BJP, are either pretending they don't realize it or conveniently they are not acting on this. So this is absolutely a fact. And I can tell you, when attack against Christians happens, it becomes a Kerala-centric issue, nothing more.
Yeah, and I think three of us are from Kerala. I think, which is very accidental in this discussion.
Delhi, I don't want to say Delhi.
Yeah, but I think for some technical reasons, I'm very sorry that I'm not able to see the questions from the audience. Yeah, so something which I want both of you to add to this debate. When we talk about conversion, the entire discourse on conversion, from the experience of being a Malayali, from the experience of born and brought up in Kerala, can you add to this, how the Hindutva, this Parivar organization systematically set up, a very false narrative about a constitutional right. As Britta's rightly pointed out, it comes very much under Article 25 of the Constitution, but systematically this narrative that conversion itself is a crime was successfully established, just like love jihad. Now there is no more love, only love jihad that exists. If a Muslim and a Hindu falls in love and they marry, it's only love jihad, not love. So in the same way, there is no conversion, but only forced conversion. There is no constitutional right as conversion, but there is only something which is banned under the anti-conversion law, which is a crime. So as citizens of this country, born and brought up in Kerala, can you explain the difference of looking at things from a constitutional point of view? Over to you, Tulasi.
Yeah, I think I think our political opinions that are formed by Malayalis also have something to do with and is informed by the socio-political constitution that you have in terms of the climate that you have in Kerala of religious harmony to a very, very large extent, with of course some exceptions, but largely you have the similar number of, or substantial number of minorities presence that you see in education, in politics, and in various other professional fields. And the fact that there is frequent interaction among all the religions, and there is this harmonious interaction among all the religions, I think have informed the religious diversity in Kerala, and as well as the religious tolerance. And that is, of course, something that all of us are particularly proud of. And it is true that with the coming of colonial powers into India, there have been attempts to set up religious institutions, especially Christian convent schools, which have very substantially and very positively contributed to educational empowerment of Indians. And that remains a reality, and that we've seen how the Christian convent schools in Kerala or have in fact helped this empowerment, especially of the poorer parts of the country as well. So I think to style any attempt of the Christian religion to integrate into mainstream or to introduce aspects such as schooling or employment opportunities among the members of the mainstream society, to see it as problematic is what has been done by the BJP largely. And what has helped them in this attempt is using vague expressions in the law, in the anti-conversion laws, as you've pointed out, to use words such as inducement, or to use words such as post conversion very loosely, so as to include any act of propagating religion, or of just explaining about one's religion to the other, or of any of those aspects, and bringing that into the ambit of these vague expression. And that is how these laws have been weaponized, and that we see. And the problem, I would say, is inherent in the law itself. So there is this idea against vagueness in law, that law is supposed to be specific, and the specificity of the law is important, because that is the only way in which the listener, or the who is subject to the law, can understand what the law the law exactly means, and to act accordingly, right? That is supposed to be one of the virtues of the law, that it is specific and that it is very accurate in its wording, so that it doesn't disadvantage the person who is supposed to obey it. It is this fundamental principle that is sort of throttled by having vague expressions in the law. And the Supreme Court said in various judgments, including Shreya Singhal, that vagueness of expression in the law itself is a ground to probably make it vulnerable, and that the court would look with suspicion at such a law using vague expressions, because it is capable of including under its ambit anything that it is not supposed to include. So that is the kind of disproportionate impact that these sort of very vague expressions in anti-conversion laws have, and that we've seen in the other so-called love jihad legislations as well in UP, and how that is affecting particularly members from the minority religion, especially Muslim boys. So that, this inherent problem in the law, I think, can only be rectified if the judiciary takes a very strong stand in striking down these laws, or reading them down, so as to resolve the problem of vagueness. But ultimately, the problem emerges from politics as well, as to how the political context is created, so as to enable these political parties to make such laws, and how these are legitimized by actions of arresting Muslim boys, or arresting Christian nuns in this case.
Shaira, let me
Yeah,
just before I get your question, what do I feel as a Malayali? That was your question. So, see, despite the many fault lines we Malayalis have, I always feel that I am the product of communal amity. If that was not there, the so-called social being, that is me, would not have been there. So when we talk in terms of my advantage as a citizen, is the advantage I derived from a society which was much more egalitarian, which had communal amity and communal harmony, which always used to hold on to it. Though there are instances of breach that is going to happen there, that is happening there, but I feel that. And second thing I would subscribe is that, see, all the laws and legislation should be revolving around the constitutional morality of justice, equality, liberty, fraternity, etc. See, devoid of the constitutional morality, there shouldn't be a standing for any legislation. That is what our third pillar, that the judiciary, needs to be concerned about. That is where I feel that they don't fulfill their obligation. That is how I see the delay, inordinate delay that has happened in adjudicating on all these conversion laws, which is pending with the Supreme Court. It was suspicion and concern. And further, I can tell you one thing. See, India is a country. can hold together only by 2-3 prerequisites. The first prerequisite for holding this country together is democracy. Second prerequisite is federalism. And the third prerequisite is secularism. Unless these three ingredients are protected, this country will go away. That's why I'm concerned about even this incident of attack against minorities, because this has got far-reaching implications on the constitutional morality and these three principles which I always underscore.
Yeah, you're right. And one very crucial point of feeling this difference of being brought up in a place where people live together, people coexist, and you know what would be a person coming from another community. You are familiar with a person coming from another community. You know what he is, or you know what she is. That is something very important, I think. I mean, when we compare to places where people live in ghettos, in Kerala, we know, I mean, what the other person is. So that is very important. I mean, the level of xenophobia. Of course, I'm not saying that there is no xenophobia in Kerala. Of course, there is, especially against migrant workers coming from other states. We all know that there is xenophobia. I mean, people are very cruel in doing this constantly, othering people coming from other states. It all happens here. But still, as you said, both of you said, something which is a constitutional right slowly historically evolved into an illegal activity. That is what happened about conversion. And even now, even unfortunately, people like us uh, debate on this. I mean, on this ground, we have this tendency to put this issue into binaries and boxes like voluntary conversion and forced conversion. I think we stopped talking about conversion. Instead, we talk about voluntary conversion and forced conversion. So we also are falling into this trap, and we also are talking. We also are taking positions by standing in these binaries. So to conclude this debate, it's already 12. I'm so very sorry that we don't have time to take questions from audience. There was some technical error, so I couldn't see the questions. So to conclude this debate quickly, in 2 minutes, can you both tell me how to handle with this menace and how to go forward? I know this is a very tough question which nobody can answer in 2 minutes, but still I want you to conclude this debate by giving some light of hope by responding to this question as quickly as possible. Britas or Tulasi? Yeah.
Tulasi can come because
Yeah.
she has a legal resolution of this issue, I feel so.
Yeah, but that you too have.
Unfortunately, I don't think that. In fact, I think as some of the members of the audience were also saying that I don't think that the answer is with the court, and of course we can sort of expect in the long term that the judiciary will take note of legislations which have disproportionate impact on minorities, which are very vaguely worded, which are intended to target minority communities. But of course, the quicker and the more efficient and the larger, the better resolution, of course, is always I am, of course, a big believer in politics rather than the slow adjudicative mechanism that we have through constitutional courts. So ultimately, I think we need to resist political assaults with politics itself, with civil society movements, and by, of course, continuously talking about it through conversations like these, and of course having the civil society being aware of the assault that is taking place, and trying to have the resistance from the members of the civil society itself. I think that is ultimately where we can count on, and that is where my hope lies.
Yeah, Shaina,
And over to you, Britta.
I'm very clear about the fact that unless the democratic forces, secular forces, progressive forces, the civil society, the institutions come together, this will continue. We need to have orchestrated joint movement against such assault. And also the institutions like the courts also have to step in. And in this, I know the time is very short. Let me just tell you a grave provision that is in UP law. And even the Supreme Court is reluctant to even approach that. See, vulnerability is being measured there. The entire women is, categorized as vulnerable. It's an anti-women document that the UP legislature has told out on that in the terms of conversion thing. So I feel that this is not a matter should be left to the few activists or the minority organizations or the minority communities. This is with regard to the protection of our constitution, our liberty. So the whole spectrum of political activists, political parties, civil society, and institutions should come together and hold their hands together in its effort to protect the constitution. Let us not think in terms of protecting nuns or priests or mullahs or maulvis. It's to protect the constitution of this country.
It's time to wind up. So thank you, Britta. Thank you, Tulsi, for joining here in this panel to make this discussion very, very fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tata. Bye-bye.